Redditors who knew murderers before they committed their crimes. What were they like? What was your experience with them? I went to elementary school with a guy who ended up killing members of his wife's family. In school, he was often loud and acted out. His family was affiliated with the big local gang, and the kid talked a lot about guns and things of that nature. He was kind of funny at times, and never mean or a bully in my experience, just someone who talked about violence. My family was pretty neglectful and I almost never had a lunch, and I remember him offering me some of his lunch on multiple occasions, even though his family usually packed him fast food that he loved. I also remember seeing a poem he wrote. I don't think he wanted to share it, and I didn't fully intend to read it. I grew up in a house where you needed to know everything to avoid provoking danger, so I had an unfortunate habit of collecting intel wherever I went. Either way, the poem was basically about how he had a good heart even though he had a hard time being good. It breaks my heart to think of him. He had a lot of kindness in him, but since childhood, most adults in his life basically believed that he would become a criminal. TLDR. Mentor friend former Bible school teacher invited me to her house one summer. Met her husband. Got bad vibes. He later murdered her because he didn't know how to just divorce her. Fucker. Around the time I started middle school, my family moved one state over. A woman from my parents' former church asked if I wanted to come back for a week and help with VBS. I liked kids, I missed my friends. I didn't particularly like my parents and she was kind of an amazing human being, so I said sure. I got to meet her baby, cutest freaking baby ever by the way, and her husband. Her husband was nice, cordial. The teacher and her mill were super positive, intelligent, witty, funny, and happy, so I remember thinking it was weird that he just seemed unhappy about everything. He perked up when they brought up the house they were building. He was sweet to his kiddo. I recently found a journal from that summer and came across a paragraph I wrote. Her husband kind of makes me feel freaked out. I don't know. He's fine, but his eyes don't have any light in them. It's kind of like a part of his soul is dead. He kind of walks around with this air of despair. Haha, that rhymes. Anyways, a year or two later he had an affair. Killed his wife. Tried to make it look like an accident. Went to prison. He gets out soon. It's a damn shame he's not going to be there longer. He robbed a lot of good kids, including their child, of a lot of love. All because he didn't know how to tell his wife he didn't want hers. I realized the other day I'm the same age she was when he killed her. I feel like my life just started. The whole thing just makes me fucking sad. I had a high school class with someone who's in jail for a murder he committed a few years ago. We're still FB friends. I think he plea bargained down to second degree and got 20ish years with opportunity for parole. He was honestly a nice guy, bit of a druggie, but definitely didn't see anything violent in him. He was always good to me. The girl he went to senior prom with is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. It's amusing to look back on their very different life paths since. He just sort of fell into the wrong crowd after high school. The murder sounded like a confrontation over a drug deal. Sister's friend. They had stopped hanging out because the friend had changed school, murdered a fellow classmate and tried to hide the body. She seemed fine at like 12-14ish. I don't know if it was 8th grade or freshman year, but she started hanging out with the goth kids, which I know means nothing. She seemed to have a fake personality. You know the internet joke about bitchy resting face? This girl had more of an evil, plotting against you resting face. Well, there was some minor drugs use, some drinking, I think perhaps some fighting, and she was sent to an alternative school, thus not hanging out with my sister. I guess she was the cool kid there, being the new one. And sometime later came a new kid who everyone liked more. She couldn't stand being second, and having her fame popularity taken away, she invited the girl to lunch, strangled her in a Taco Bell parking lot, cut up the body with help from 2 friends, tried to burn the body, and then hid pieces of it. Somehow that only gets you 45 years in jail. One of the 2 guys got 45 years, and a third got 5 years on lesser charges, and with an odd twist of karma, he was released and later killed in a car crash. Lawrence Lovett, who killed Eve Carson, the student body president of UNC Chapel Hill at the time, bullied me in elementary school. He was an ass. He was intimidating and cruel, and somehow the teacher liked him, so he got away with it. When I was a teenager, a family I had known for years had a marriage that brought in a stepson. He was very obviously delayed in some way, although no one really talked about it. He was into gaming really hard and heavy metal at a weird level. Looking back, there were warning signs he was unhinged, but to a 15-year-old it was just a kind of creepy dude you didn't let yourself be alone with. He made awkward advances towards girls way younger and was a really big guy. Looked like a 30-year-old at 18, so that stood out. He worked at a grocery store and he and another dude got fired. They ended up picking up an ex-co-worker who was also mentally delayed by offering her a ride to work when they saw her on her bike. They ended up torturing and killing her and both got the death penalty. I had conflicted feelings because even though he was absolutely guilty, they both took interviews the day after the arrests and detailed the crime on camera. I also knew mentally he wasn't all there. Even when he was put to death, his last statement showed that. It was rough on the family, of course, and because of the televised interviews and the fact that the victim was so trusting and innocent, it made a huge impact locally. Went to school with a guy who murdered his dad's girlfriend and her 5 years and 7 years old daughters in an absolutely horrific way. He always had a temper issue growing up. He would get really angry, explosively angry even at a younger age. I thought he was nuts and was proven correct when he killed 4 people, including 2 innocent little girls, over getting mad at his father for not letting him borrow his truck to go to the movies. We rode the bus together and in like 7th grade he got mad at me and told me he would kill my entire family. I knew Aaron Alexis. If you don't know who that is, Google his name. He was always kind to my young child when we came into the restaurant he worked at, and my last conversation with him was about veganism, and I remember clearly him telling me he wanted to try it as he never liked the thought of blood on his hands. I was getting out of the shower one day when my husband knocked at the door to show me his phone and the news of the mass shooting in the suspect's photo. Recognizing someone you know in a situation like that is unreal. I think about it all the time. A young man who used to come over to play D&D and do other nerdly things with our friends group. He came over one evening and showed us with great pride the tattoo he'd just gotten with his baby daughter's name in it. We were happy. He'd had a rough life, brain tumor as a child, really rough family situation in his teens, slightly mentally impaired, etc., and thought he was finally getting better, going to be okay. The same night, he went back to the house he and his GF and baby were living in with the girl's mom, and apparently, during breaks taken from playing WoW, he assaulted the mother with a knife, a ballpoint pen, and a frying pan. The girlfriend escaped down the road to the fire station and told them everything. Cops got there as he was wrapping up the corpse with the shower curtain. He's doing something like 36 years hard on a life sentence in Florida now. He was a good kid. Bit messed up, but you know, not any worse than anyone else, really. Soft spoken, polite, really wanted to be just one of the guys, and it frustrated him no end when he didn't get something, like how to add or figure to hit on a class 0 or something. But we all helped him with that. It's been nearly 10 years now and it's still inexplicable to me how that kid did that thing. Honestly, it is. Guy in my fraternity in college. He didn't want me to join the fraternity because I wouldn't drink with him. I was on meds I couldn't drink on, or buy him weed. I'd never smoked or bought weed. I held my ground and he was the only one who didn't want me to join. He was the only one who hazed me as a pledge. He wouldn't shake my hand, just look at it, look me in the eye, and then ignore me. Just a real douchey bro-I type shitty guy. Once I went off the meds I was on. After I was in the fraternity, he saw me drinking Jaeger from the bottle and gave me his approval, putting out his hand for me to shake for the first time. I just looked at his hand, looked him in the eye, and walked away. He ended up becoming a doctor. He also ended up selling fentanyl, and a guy ended up owing from it. They found text messages, surveillance video, and he even called the guy's wife to apologize. Pretty much guaranteed he'd get caught. He pleaded guilty. He's now in jail for about 10 years. Fucking moron. Thank you for watching. Smash that like button like it's a thick booty. And don't forget to subscribe to okpjdark if you like nice things, like new videos every day. See you tomorrow.